Hello, my friends. I'm done teaching for the day. I want to get this done now because it's fresh in my brain. You're going to love this one. We're going to do mostly for the blues. All right. I might throw a different genre backing track on and just show you how this particular concept works outside of the blues. But because I have done so many lessons about playing over the changes in a 12-bar blues, right? So we're not just playing the same scale. We're introducing the next chord. Right, so we have a lot of different notes to choose from for the 1 chord, right to the 4 chord, and that 5 chord if I'm in A, of course. We have a lot of notes to choose from that really differentiate 1 chord from the next. Sounds really cool, right? It's a very mature way of playing. It really shows that you know what it is that you're doing with the instrument. One really cool way to accentuate that and really bring that to light is moving into that chord change. All right, so from the 1 to that 4 chord during your lead, getting to some of those notes that really bring out that 4 chord on the measure before the 4 chord is introduced, usually on beat 4. All right, so it's like just before the rhythm, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Just before the rhythm actually switches to the 4 chord, you're already introducing it into that lead motif, okay? So let's just go over a quick review. I'm going to put a link below that I want you to check out if you haven't yet, and it just goes over some of like the different notes that we're going to hit for each one of the chords. But I'm going to show you because we can do this visually, okay? We're just going to stick to this position, or I'm just going to stick to that position, the first position of the A minor pentatonic, okay? Now, visually, when we're playing each one of our chords, right, I've got my 1 chord, right? There's my scale, and if I play my 1 chord, what I really love is the major third, because a dominant chord has a major third in it, is the 6th fret of my G string, right where my middle finger happens for that 1 chord, for that A7. So you can hit that pretty well, right, on that 1 chord. That really is a note that accentuates when we're on the 1 chord, okay? And that, guys, that's how I play my 1 chord. I know I showed you guys this before. So that note will really accentuate the 1 chord. What I love about that note is it does not work over the 4 chord. If you watch, it's my 1 chord. All right, if I move it up a half step, so it's my major third of the scale, even though I'm in a minor pentatonic, it's my major third, the 1. When I go to my 4 chord, that's my 4, and that's my flat 3, which is, right, the flat 7. So this note, 5th fret of the G string, is the flat 7 of the 4 chord, and that's my 1 or root note of the 4 chord. So the note in between those two does not work. It only works for my 1 chord. All right, so that we're really going to accentuate the 1 chord. Okay, it's fantastic. Right now, when I go to my 4 chord, instead of playing this, I'm just going to play right here. If you look where my pinky is, 7th fret of the B string, I love that. All right, that is going to be very, very conducive to introducing the 4 chord. Okay, right. It's the 13 or the 6 if we're in A, all right? But it's really right here. It's the 3rd, the major third of my 4 chord. I love that. I actually love the way it plays off of that. There's my tritone, okay? 7th fret of my B, and then 8th fret of my high E string. That's my tritone for my D7. So right there really gives me. And when we're talking about the 3rd of the 1 chord and the 3rd of the 4 chord, I love just sliding into them because it gives us this minor major, right? It gives us this minor major sound, right? Minor third, major third. Cool. And then I love when we get to the 5 chord, okay? I really enjoy hitting the 7th fret of the E string. Now, the 3rd of that 5 chord, which would be where my pinky is, right? The 9th fret of that B string is very strong. The reason is really hit that flat seven, right? When we're playing a blues, you really hit that flat seven. So changing that to a natural seven is a very strong statement, where a lot of times we'll just go for that 7th fret of the high E, okay? Right, so just a whole step above the root of the whole blues progression, right? In this case, B, and while I'm in A. Okay, so those are the notes that we're really going to accentuate. Now, I'm going to play just giving a little bit of that out for 112 bar, just so we can hear it, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. A little quick 4 in there. Now. Cool. Right, it moves pretty quick. One thing that I did do is I hit that over my 1 chord, the 9th fret of my high E. That, and I slid into it, that is the same note as that 6 that we were talking about before on my G string, my major third of my 1 chord, okay? So that's sort of introducing those chords, you know, as they come along. Now I'm going to show you introducing them on the measure before that happens, okay? See if you like the sound, all right? I'm going to try to get that quick 4 in there, okay? So if I do like... Right, now I'm going back for that 4. That whole riff was introducing the 4. Back to the 1. Now to the 5 here. All right, I'm gonna try that again. So now on the 1. So that 4, back to the 1. Right, I'm a little ahead. Right, 1 measure ahead. Right, that tension into the 1 before the 1 happens. My 5 to the 4. Into that 1. Right? Little overbearing, and that was like as an example, but hard to do, and a little overbearing to try to be going into each one of those chords of the 12 bar, of course, you know, so judge it well. It's one of those peppery in things for our solos that we can do every now and then, right? Definitely not something that we need to like kill, you know. It's not one of those things that we were like, ooh, look what I can do, and then it happens all the time, right? Right, I waited till that 4 chord to do it. Now the 1. Now the 5. Right? Only really did it on the 4 and started introducing the 5 a little bit. That 5 really works well. One really cool thing, I didn't even touch this, but one really cool lick to do when you get to that 5 also is you kind of doing like, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. If you're in that position, you can go for that 5 on the B string, my 5, 8, and then on my high E, 5, 6, 7. All right, what I really love about that, you get that really quick, right? However you want to finger it. And what that really does is that just gives us a 1, flat 3, 4, sharp 4, and 5 of my 5 note. Right, so it's almost like jumping all the way up here when I get to my E7. It's almost like jumping all the way up here, right? And sort of playing off of this pentatonic position, right? You're like almost like moving all the way up here. You're just nailing it here. right? Something cool to throw in. Try it. See how you do. Focus on one change, okay? So it's sort of like that last time that I did it. I really only did it going into the 4, not the quick 4 in the first, like the 1 4 1 1 of the first 4 bars, right? Not until we got down to bars 5 and 6 when we get to that the D7 for those. That's when I was introducing it, and I always like to do, because it's very lyrical, something on that 5 chord, right? That, like, when you hear any blues singers, you know, any old school blues jazz singers too, when they get to that 5, that sort of turnaround, it's almost like everything changes. One really cool example, I'm just gonna just for the heck of it, just sort of accentuate that idea of that 5 chord, right? I could come in with something like this. And then the same thing here. But now on the 5, I'm gonna want something different. Right, just staying within those 3 frets, right? It's like that first phrase that you do over the first 4 bars, if that's sort of how you want to lay out that phrase, you know, almost like the first 2 bars, and then you give yourself two of like that, a little bit of a break, a little bit of a breather. That works now for the next 4 bars, and then once we get to that 5 turnaround, it really is just like, all right, we want to like sort of change everything and make everything sound cool. So that's why I really love changing it up for that 5 chord. You know, it's almost like when I'm doing my minor pentatonic and I'm adding a little bit of that mixolydian sound for the 1 chord. When I go for the 4 chord, I have my Dorian, right? So if we really want to like boil this down to some of the theory in that position, it would almost be like, when I have my A7, I'm playing pure. If I was going to be purely modal, right, I would be playing an A mixolydian, right, over my A7. And then in this position, when I switch to my D7, that position, my 5th fret position now, would be an A Dorian, okay, to fit over my D7, right? So those two generally work off of each other. There's only one note that's different, right? And that's going to be the major 3rd for my 1 chord. That's it, right? Once I bring that note down, if I take my mixolydian and I bring the 3rd note down to a flat 3, it changes into a Dorian. So I have like sort of like mixolydian, Dorian, back to mixolydian. Sorry, I'm gonna make that switch. Dorian, right? Sort of like an A Dorian. That's where we get that. Back to a mixolydian. But then when I get to that 5, I love taking the whole Dorian up here, right? And that's where you sort of get that. And then you bring it back down. Right, for the 4 and the 5 chord. So a lot to work with here, right? There's some really, really cool stuff, sort of peppering into your solos. It will, like we were saying, don't kill it. You know what I mean? Like, use it sparingly. I love to do, to be honest, like I love to do a 12 bar of like almost like powerhousing through it, like an Albert King, Stevie Ray Vaughan thing, where you're just like crushing the A blues scale, right, and coming up with some really cool rhythmic phrases, right, and then do one where you're playing over the changes, you know, right, but not throughout the whole solo. But that is my preference. Use it as you will. You know, there have been times where I played a blues that's like very modal and not very bluesy, right? And I'm really trying to modally change with some of those changes. So a lesson that I wanted to throw in there really quickly before to be honest, before I go to bed. Awesome. Thank you for sticking with me. And as always, questions, go ahead and comment. I'll try to comment back as soon as I can. Or if you find me on Instagram or Facebook, just send a DM. All right, I'm always open. I always want to help out with any of the tutorials that I throw out here. Thanks, everyone.